Okay. Hey everyone, thank you for joining us today. And here I have Roger Kibbe as well, and today we will be having an office hours on some Bixby tips and tricks. So you can go to the next slide, Roger, if you like.
Yeah, before we do that, so
Mm-hmm.
you'll see if you're on YouTube Live, there's the chat. So as we're presenting, please start asking questions. And then after we're done with the presentation, which will take, about 15 or 20 minutes, I'd say, then we're going to have really an open kind of AMA, ask me anything type Q&A. But please start asking questions in the chat anytime you like. We'll keep track of those, and then we will kick off Q&A by looking at those questions that were asked while we presented. So start asking your questions anytime they come to mind.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead and introduce yourself, Jonathan.
Yeah, sure. My name is John Pan. I think some of you probably already know me. I'm a developer evangelist for Bixby, and I have 4 too many cats right now. Unfortunately, you can't see any of them right now, but it is what it is. So, Roger.
No cat's going to make a cameo today?
I don't think so. Not today. The cat that's usually not camera shy isn't here. She's in another room, so
Oh, okay. Well, I
yeah.
was looking forward to the cats. All right. Hey, everyone. Roger Kibbe. I'm a senior developer evangelist for Viv Labs. Just a little bit personally about myself. I have a father of 2 teenage daughters, and I went to Cal, so go Bears. So we're going to start with Jonathan. So take it away, Jonathan, with
All right.
your favorite Bixby tips and tricks.
Sure. Let's go ahead. So, we did upload a video on Bixby themes, but for those of you who may not have seen this, this is an upcoming update that will be updating the Bixby UI to match or to be able to change themes with the Android themes. And you can see here that this is the current theme that most of you guys are very familiar with. And here is the new dark theme. And hang on, I should actually mute my Slack real quick. You guys might be hearing that. Let me do that. Sorry about that, guys. And okay. Pause notifications. There we go. Okay. So here we can see that there is the new dark theme on the right, where as the current theme, it'll be updating to that. So Bixby themes will be match the Android theme settings that you set in your settings display. Now this update hasn't quite come out yet, but it is coming soon. And you can see that the light theme will match the Android settings for the light theme as well. And similarly in the dark theme, Bixby will update that to have a dark theme to match the Android display theme. So what does that mean for you guys as developers? That means that you will have to be very wary of transparent images and transparent icons that appear throughout your capsules. And here you can see that although these white icons look great in the dark theme as well as the current default theme, you will see that the white icons are invisible here. And yes, okay. So here we can see that these white icons are practically invisible to the viewer, and that's not going to be good for the end user who uses your capsule. So okay, and now here, hang on, is that my Slack that's going off? Yeah. So here we can set the light theme key for this specific image, and this way we can change this to a different image URL. And we can see that this one will be changed to the share black.png instead of just the standard share PNG, which is white. And if we do the same thing for this icon as well, to add the light theme key to set a custom URL for the light theme, then we'll actually get a different icon specific to the light theme. Now there's also a dark theme key as well, so you can also set a custom image for the dark theme if you want to go that route. And to quickly summarize this problem, it's that when the themes come out, you should be ready for this because the IDE will already allow you to access the different themes. And just to show you guys what that looks like in the IDE, if we click on settings and we click on, let's just do the Note 20, and I'm just getting notifications everywhere right now. Hopefully you guys can hear me. Maybe that's why my Slack is going crazy. But anyway, so we have the Note 20 right here, and we can select the 3 different themes. We have the default, the dark, and the light theme. And just in the simulator, now we can easily test the 3 different themes that we need. So, okay. And the next tip that I wanted to highlight was on using Viv Context. Now, Viv Context provides a lot of information for you as the developer about, the various contexts of the conversation, various user information and things like that. So first, all you have to do is you have to add it as an accepted input into your endpoints.bxb file. Then you can add it as this parameter right here in your JavaScript file, and now you'll have access to the Viv Context variable inside your JavaScript. And the Viv Context object looks like this. It's got all these different things, but I wanted to go over a few of these keys that I find particularly useful, with the first one being the device. So the device key is great because this you'll be able to tell whether the user of your capsule is currently on mobile, watch, fridge, or TV. And this way you can provide, a custom experience or different amounts of information based on the device that the user is on. And also, before I move on to the next keys, is that a lot of people like sending this Viv Context object to their analytics or whatever. That way they have a lot of information about their users. So that's one thing that we see people use Viv Context for regularly. Now you can also have access to the access token, assuming that you have your OAuth 2.0 rigged up to your capsule. In the chance that you do need it, the access token at the JavaScript level, you can grab it in the Viv Context object. Now the session ID is the current conversation, the current conversational session's ID. So what that means is that during a session, this ID will not change, and you'll know that the user has been continuously using Bixby during a session. Now, sessions reset when, let's say, the user closes Bixby or navigates away from your capsule, things like that. So that's how the session can change. And finally, you have this Boolean, which is the hands-free Boolean, and this will tell you whether the user is hands-free or not. And this can be very useful for you to be able to determine whether you want to provide a more verbose response because they're not looking at the screen, or provide just a custom response whether they're using the button or not. And finally, this granted permissions one is actually often overlooked, and a lot of capsules don't account for what to do if certain permissions aren't granted. And for example, if you don't grant location access to, if the user doesn't agree to provide their location to your capsule, what ends up happening is that your API calls without the location can actually end up breaking, and your capsule can end up breaking. So having the granted permissions and checking to see, let's say the user didn't provide their location access, well, you can do a general API call, like let's say you're looking for restaurants near the user, like show me some restaurants in your capsule. Well, without their location, you wouldn't be able to find a good match for them. So you could say something like, well, here's some restaurants in the US, but we need your location to provide, a better result. So this is just one way that you can use granted permissions and account for the lack of permissions. And the next one, which is commonly used for persistence, is the Bixby user ID. Lots of people use this to, have some persistence across different sessions. And this Bixby user ID is the same for the user. It doesn't change. It's unique for each user tied to their Bixby account. So this doesn't change across devices, it doesn't change across sessions. So this is a good way to keep track of an individual user. Okay, next let's talk about hands-free mode. So hands-free mode is when I use voice to wake up Bixby. So this is when I say, "Hi Bixby, what's the weather?" or "Show me the weather." This is when you do not use the button or you do not navigate through the app. So if you're not tapping the screen and stuff like that, then this hands-free mode becomes true. And a lot of capsules, I believe, would benefit from taking into account whether the user is in hands-free mode or not. And this is just to show you some ways that you can determine whether the user is hands-free mode. In the JavaScript, as we just went over, you can pass in the viv context variable, which I just shown you guys. And it's viv context.handsfree, and you'll have access to this Boolean, which tells you whether the user is hands-free or not. In Bixby land, so this is in like the view files and dialog files, things like that, you have this $hands-free, which is also a Boolean, and this will tell you whether the user is hands-free or not. And underneath here, you can see there's a lot more, but there's some boilerplate code that typically goes into input views that utilize hands-free. And it may seem daunting at first, but this is mostly copy paste, and then you change, the variables and your dialogues accordingly. And finally, in the simulator, you can test whether it's hands-free or not by clicking on this checkbox right here. So I wanted to give a quick demo of hands-free versus not hands-free, and we'll be using my capsule Quizlet. And so if you just type in start, you'll see that right now it is not hands-free.
Welcome to Quizlet. Let's start a quiz. Select a category.
So you can see that here in the hands-on mode, that it just says this portion of the dialogue, and then it doesn't read any of the categories for you to select. And it also lists all the categories in this pretty long list here. And this is because you're assuming that the user has their hands on the device and they're able to scroll through and tap on a category as they need. But what happens if, let's say, user says, "Hi Bixby, start Quizlet." So, the user won't know what categories there are if Bixby doesn't tell them. So let's turn on hands-free and then hit start.
Start is not a valid category.
Oh, okay, I gotta reset the simulator first.
Welcome to Quizlet. Let's start a quiz. The categories on this page are general knowledge, music, video games, anime, computers, geography. Which category would you like? Or say next to hear more categories.
So there you...
Any audio.
Oh, they can't hear the audio here?
Yeah. So guys, don't worry about it.
Oh, geez, hang on. Okay. Yeah, sorry about that. If you guys can't hear the audio there, that's a bit of a problem. Let me also check. You guys are able to hear Roger, right? Make sure. Let's see.
This is the joys of using multiple
Indeed, yes.
and streaming to YouTube.
Okay.
Fun. Never done it.
All right. So sorry about that. You guys can hear. Oh, okay. Yeah, they can hear both of it. So yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah, Roger, you shouldn't be able to hear my audio. My Bixby's audio. My bad, guys. Anyway, so yes, here you can hear Bixby read through each of the 6 of these categories, and you can click next to go through.
The categories on this page are animals, books, sports, science.
And it'll just read through 6 more categories at a time in a paginated fashion. And here we can see that we have this if hands-free, and then all this stuff gets done, right? Otherwise, when it's not hands-free, it doesn't do all that stuff. So this is the power of hands-free mode, and it's very, once you implement it, it creates a better experience, in particular for going through input views and selections. So yeah, that's it for my portion of this presentation. Roger, why don't you go ahead and
So let me know when we're switched over, Jonathan.
We are switched over, and I will hide myself as well since I'm blocking a bit of view. There you go.
Awesome. All right, everyone. So here is my favorite tips and tricks for Bixby. First thing is around training and continuation and relaxations. So simple example here, let's say I had a recipe finder capsule and I asked Bixby, what do I want for dinner tonight? What should I have for dinner tonight? And it gives you some dinner recipes. And then you could say, show me Italian ones. And then it would filter down and show me Italian ones. But then you could say, show me Mexican ones instead. What both of those are, so show me Italian ones, if you think about it as kind of modifying that search. So when you create that training, you would create that as a continuation. And when Bixby saw as a continuation, it would rerun the action that actually did the search for you. And it would automatically happen. No coding involved. You just mark that in training as a continuation. Likewise, I trained show me, cuisine type ones instead, and would say, hey, he replaced Italian with Mexican, and then rerun the action for you. So you can say with sausage and onions on the right side. So clarifying, getting it even more specific. So that's another continuation. And then finally, I say without gluten. The challenge is my recipe database does not have any, Mexican sausage and onion recipes without gluten. So instead of saying no result, what you can do in Bixby is do something called a relaxation. And what a relaxation does is it drops the last input and then reruns the action for you. So in this case, like it said, the example says, hey, I can't find any gluten-free recipes, but here's the results of your previous search. And I think that's a really nicer way to handle no results than just saying no results. So if you look in training, oops, I'm going backwards. Hang on. Hey guys. All right, press the wrong button. So if you look in training, we actually have an example in the capsule samples collection of training. I have the GitHub repo URL there at the bottom. But here's what we call outer training. Just think of this main training in that example, and you say, how far is Earth from Jupiter? All right. And if you'll notice, the goal is compare distance result here with no specialization. Now, I want the user to be able to say, and from Mars. In other words, how far is Earth from Mars after they've asked, how far is Earth from Jupiter? So notice on the bottom there, that's the continuation training. So same goal, the compare distance result is the goal. But notice now, instead of no specialization in the middle, it's a continuation of compare distance result. So what this means is after I showed or spoke the results for compare distance result, if I as a user said, and from Mars, go rerun the compare distance result action. In this case, I'm going to replace Jupiter with Mars and then show the results. So this is a great way to allow the user to modify things and really have a more natural flow of conversation, and definitely something that I would suggest you look at and use in your capsules as appropriate. All right. Vocabulary. All right. It's not just for enums anymore. All right. I see this all the time. If you're going to use an enum, an enumeration with Bixby, then you absolutely need to set up a vocabulary for that. But, and here's the tip, you don't need to just use vocabulary for enums. If you use vocabulary with a standard name concept, then what you're doing is you're actually giving hints to Bixby's ASR and NLU about possible input values. This becomes really powerful and useful when you have a lot of possible inputs that the user could say, and maybe they're not the most normal things to say. So I have an example here it's really a flight finder capsule. And so you can see at the bottom, There's this concept airline name, just a name concept, standard thing. But now I've set up a vocab for it. And indeed, this is just a small summary. Literally, there are hundreds of lines in this vocab. And what this means is when you use the capsule, and if I, as a user, say something like Adria Airways, with vocab in place, the chances that Bixby's ASR would understand that and the NLU would pick it up is far greater. So it's really, vocab is not just for enums, but it's really a great way to give Bixby hints to possible input values that would be in a concept. All right? And I have a link to the docs there. All right, dialogue macros. Okay, this is probably my favorite hint. Why is it my favorite hint? Because I think it's incredibly powerful, and I don't see people using it nearly enough. So what a dialogue macro really is, it's a reusable chunks of a dialogue. And so really what it allows you to do is avoid duplicates of dialogue, avoid duplicate dialogue logic, and you can pass parameters in it and use some simple EL, Bixby expression language, to have some Bixby logic in there. So let me give you an example, all right? And this is contrived because you'd never do this. But I have over there at the bottom of the screen, I have this message, a template, hello world. All right, that just would say hello world and print at the top of the screen. But now go to the top line and I say message and I say template, and then I'm calling this macro, hello, and then adding world. And then over the right side, you see I've defined that macro, in this case, is just the word hello. So this would say hello world, just like the first one did, but hello is coming from that macro and world is hard to find in that message. On the bottom, what I'm saying is, hey, all of my output is using this hello world macro. So there on the right, on the bottom, you can see I've defined a hello world macro is having the text hello world. Okay, like I said, a contrived example, but let me show you some examples where this is pretty useful. Okay, so number one, and this is from an open source thing on our GitHub repo. It was actually, we ported over the Alexa pet match skill to Bixby to show people how that would work. And then I did some things to make it more Bixbified, so to speak. So one of the things you might want to do, and Jonathan was just talking about hands-free, is you might want to be more verbose when you're in hands-free mode than when you're not. So there's an if hands-free, a template, and some speech, and an else, just a template there. In this case, if I'm hands-free, I am actually giving all this information about a dog, but I'm adding the description. If you look at that second line for the speech and what is spoken to the user. However, if I'm not hands-free, I'm just going to use a standard template. So what's at the top and what's spoken is the same. If I didn't use this as a macro, then I would have to repeat all of that text that is used to speak to the user in the actual template and in the top case in the speech itself. So I'm to vary my dialogue and speech, I'm using macros. All right. Another great use is SSML. All right. So look at that example at the top. All right. This is actually a capsule I built. It's a lovely little thing that's on the marketplace for Christmas time called Advent Calendar. So next Christmas he can enable it. But I play these little Christmas bells whenever it says anything, right? And so you look at that top, I have some SSML and I have this long audio source equals christmasbells.wave, right? There, that's fine. But if I want to reuse this, I'm going to have to reuse that across every single place that I have a template. So instead of actually hard coding Christmas bells here, what I'd suggest you do is look at the middle. What I've done is I've replaced that long line with a macro. So the macro is called Chris Bells. And then in the bottom here, I've actually created a template that has all that SSML for that audio snippet. So you can take, SSML can be very verbose. But you can take with dialogue macros, you can make it a lot less verbose by extracting things like sound effects, things to actually change the language, etc., into a macro, and then just refer to that macro in your actual dialogue, and it becomes a lot shorter, frankly, to my mind, easier to understand, easier to read, and one place to edit. If I want to change that Christmas bells sound effect, I change it one place, and every place I reference it with that macro, it changes it. So I'd actually highly recommend this if your capsule uses SSML. And then the final thing, and you may have noticed this because we use this pattern extensively internally, and you may have noticed this on our GitHub examples all over the place, is we use dialogue macros as a way to provide localization. So in this case, I'm actually using the capsule sample quiz capsule that is on GitHub. And you'll see in this findquiz.dialog.bxb at the very top, I'm actually calling a macro. Now notice it's in /model/base. So base means for any language. Now I'm calling this macro, and then in model/en, so if you're using English, then I have defined this macro. In this case, I'm giving you an example of passing a parameter. In this case, that quizzes parameter. And then there's the content bound below, which is case is obviously in English language because it's in the English language directory. And there's a couple, I'm using random, so there's a couple phrases that I can say. So this is definitely best practice for localizing your Bixby capsules, is in your kind of base for views and dialogue, call a macro, and then put it in a localized directory. And then if I wanted to localize this out of English, I would just create English, let's say a different language. I just say model/en, different language, and then put in all the macros that were needed, and boom, I've localized all my text that is both spoken and shown on screen. So just a hint about localization. All right. How many, if you've done a lot of Bixby development or a bit, you're like, I'm drowning in concepts, help me. Because every little concept you need to define, right? You need to create this concept file, right? Okay, I'm going to give you a hint. You actually don't need to do that. All right. You only need, if you're defining a primitive concept, that's only necessary when the concept is used by the planner. E.g., it's used in your NL training. In other words, in your training, one of your concepts is used as a value in that training that you're looking for. However, if you're not using it in training, then here's the tip, and I'll show you some code in just a second. You don't need to actually separately define that concept. You can use core and then a primitive type, and you need to make it private. Let me show you in code, it'll make a little more sense. All right, so here I'm using an example from the movie agent sample capsule. And there is this structured concept called movie details. All right, movie details is used not for any natural language training. It's really used as an output concept and really used to show that information on the screen when you find the movie. So now if you look at this and you look at all these properties in movie details, what do you notice? Like property budget, I said type core integer. What does that mean? I didn't create a separate budget concept. I'm just telling Bixby, use your core type of integer. And then one other thing you need to do is you see this visibility private. You need to do that to avoid, if in this example, you see I have two core integers, one for budget and one for revenue. Bixby would throw an error if you didn't say visibility is private. What visibility is private says is hide it from the planner, the natural language trainer. Usually pretty advanced reasons why you'd want to do that. But in this case, we're saying hide it so it doesn't throw an error, and we know we're not using this in natural language. So this is a way to really dramatically reduce the number of individual concept files that you need to create for Bixby If you're not using it in training, type core dot primitive type, make the visibility private, and you can have a lot fewer files there. All right. Default actions and dispatch name patterns. All right. So I see this a lot, and this is I think part of it is the way we originally launched Bixby did not have this capability. So if you look in the left hand side, I have some old school kind of dispatch patterns, and I see it in a lot of your capsules. I see things like with my game, start game, or ask my game to start my game using my game. Okay, those are all a mouthful to start a capsule. If you set up a default action, then you can start a capsule by saying things like what I have on the right side. Start my game. Talk to my game. Pretty familiar if you've done Google Action development. That's the kind of default for Google Action. Use my game. Speak to my game, etc. Where my game is the name of my capsule. All right? So a lot more intuitive way to do this. What happens when I set up a default action? Basically, when I say start my game, it's going to call that default action and then execute it. So it can't have any required concepts as input. But typically, when you're starting a game, you're going to be, hey, here's some instructions, or here's how to use the game. Do you want to start, etc., or jump right into gameplay, and and go forward. Now, there's more default actions. If you look at the bottom, I have a GitHub, excuse me, the docs reference to that. By the way, it's a good time to mention. You don't have to be scrambling on screenshots right now. Right after this presentation, within an hour, I'll be sharing this to our Bixby developers Twitter, all of the presentations, so you can grab it and take a look at it at your leisure. But please, if what you're building makes sense to use a default action, then use a default action. It makes it easier for any user of your capsule to start it up, and just makes it more intuitive and easier to use, which we all want. All right. So my last tip, and then we'll go into open Q&A, is all about training search. And when you are looking, I see people do this all the time. They have a bunch of training and they're scrolling through. So better with training v.2 to do this, to find the training. But hey, there's that search bar. You may have used this if you just type in some text in there. It's just searching for that term in an utterance. But there's a lot more you can do. And at the bottom, I have all the documentation here. But you can say things like G:, and then you're searching for a goal name something. Or V, search term, searching for a value. Continuation search term, role search term, etc. Or if you want to just say, hey, I want to see, we're just talking about continuations. I want to see all of my training that has a continuation. Has : continuation will then filter the training that just show you what has a continuation. You can do that for many other things as I show you. You can search for status. Something you get used to, and once you get used to it, you're not going to ever be scrolling through the training trying to find that particular utterance again. All right. Some Bixby developer resources. I'm not going to go over these. I'm going to share the presentation. I am going to point out at Bixby Developers on Twitter. I think that's the very best place if you want to keep contact with what we're doing, or reach out to us before or after this presentation or anytime. And then, of course, if you're a Bixby developer, you know about bixbydevelopers.com. Bunch of other resources here. I'll be sharing this deck out on GitHub, out on Twitter, GitHub in mind, because I'm looking right at that, our GitHub and our YouTube and our podcast, out on Twitter right after this, so you can take a look at that. All right, so with that being said, I'm going to turn off the presentation, and we'll go into Ask Me Anything time. You can ask us anything. Hopefully there's something in the YouTube chat to get us started, but start asking your questions in YouTube chat. All right, thanks so much.
Great job, Roger. Thank you. And So yeah, do you want to stop presenting real quick?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because they'll see us many
Uh,
times.
us presenting ourselves.
There we go.
There.
Okay. I'll shrink you down a little bit because otherwise you're gonna see your face. Okay. Now, the first question, is it Bixbyans or Bixbyans? Now, in my opinion, it's Bixbyans, which with the I. Roger, what do you think? Do you think it's?
I have to be contrarian and say it's with the Y.
Oh boy, well, it looks
One.
like you guys aren't gonna get a conclusive answer to this question since the two of us disagree here.
Hey, so I want to. Can I do the next question because it was
Yeah,
asked about?
yeah, of course.
Junior asked a question about new categories or kind of a request for new categories
Mhm.
for Capsule at BXB. So I assume you're talking about new natural language categories. And yeah, stay tuned. Those come out. There's some more coming out. For those not familiar, natural language categories are a way you can basically replace something that's built into Bixby. So the example I always use or like to use is if you enable the Big Sky weather capsule and then set it up as a default and ask Bixby, what's the weather? It goes to Big Sky. So if your capsule falls into one of these categories, and you can check them out on the Bixby in our documentation, then definitely check out natural language categories. And then you're talking about JavaScript sine and cosine. I didn't know that. Let me see if there's a workaround there. But yeah, so stay tuned around that limited JavaScript capabilities with Bixby right now. Maybe there's some interesting news coming in the future. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah. And I believe the next question is also from Junior in a music category quiz. Can I put a playback while she sings the lyrics and underneath put the alternatives? I would say yes. You can integrate a snippet of the song and SSML, and you can put whatever text you like in the result view underneath it. If I'm understanding the question correctly. So
Yeah, or are you trying to show a video? Maybe you can clarify if you're trying to show a video, because you can embed a YouTube video or a Vimeo video and show it and show content there, and then you press play and show that. But yeah, you should be able to mix whatever you're asking for. You should be able to mix those together.
Yeah. Yeah, and it seems like no other questions at the moment. So, Roger, would you like to show our viewers what they might win at the end of this webinar?
Oh no, here we go. We got a question.
Oh, okay. No, so we're not getting to the good part yet. So, next question. Runtime versions are always increasing or improving. Are there any plans to depreciate the oldest ones? And Roger, would you like to answer that?
Yeah, no. So we had a challenge early on where we were kind of really rapidly moving. I say our team we're very agile in our internal development. And so rapidly iterating, the problem is we were depreciating things and it was a problem. So in general, we will not depreciate things to where your capsule will be blocked from the marketplace. There's really 3 levels of depreciation. One is I think it's level 1, 2, and 3. And correct me if I'm wrong, Jonathan. Level 1 is you go in there and you see a warning and it says, hey, this has been depreciated. You should update your version, in which case you should update your version. Level 2 depreciation is your capsule will still work on the marketplace, but in order for you to actually submit an update, you're forced to fix it. And Bixby will show that as an error. And in the old level 3 depreciation was it would actually block your capsule from being on the marketplace. That was causing a lot of challenges. And what we tried to do is stop going to level 3 for just about anything. I will say, with the notable exception of if there is a security issue with something, we often may be forced to depreciate it. And I think anyone would understand that. But yeah, so when you're submitting, check, see if you're not getting depreciation errors, look in the docs to get the newest one and keep on contact with that. But no, you shouldn't have a problem unless there's a security error, which would let you know. with us depreciating things and having things actually be removed from the marketplace because of that. And we have had some things removed from the marketplace. We did something where we changed the Bixby user ID. There were some security issues there. And so we definitely notified everyone who got removed from the market to say, hey, you really need to update your capsule because right now people can't use it at all.
Excuse me. Next question from Elaine. Hi, I'm still new to Bixby Dev. What languages are supported by Bixby? And if you're talking about programming languages, all the programming logic is done in JavaScript, and the rest of it is done with kind of Bixby specific language. And if you're talking about spoken language, it's compatible with the ENUS, so English in the United States, in terms of the marketplaces, as well as Korean for the Korean capsule marketplace. Now, if you're talking about what languages can Bixby speak, there's quite a few, and that's in our documentation under SSML voices. And there's, I don't know all the languages off the top of my head, but there's quite a few different languages that Bixby can speak to the user, should you need that functionality. So if you do want to get started developing for Bixby, we have a lot of great learning resources on our YouTube channel. We have Hello World tutorials. We have Bixby 101 for, it's good to teach you kind of the concepts before. The Hello World one is more, hands-on. It codes you through to get your first capsule. The 101 teaches you kind of the overall concepts in Bixby. So I'd recommend starting there to learn how to build for Bixby, as well as our documentation. There's a quick start guide there as well. So whatever form you find to be best for you, hopefully we have material there for you. So yeah.
So I was going to add, not only can you speak in multiple languages, but for every language, I believe there's at least 2 voices. I think there's 4 voices for English and a couple other languages. Mm-hmm. And you can use those all use SSML, and you can switch the language. So, which is a really great way to give some character, I'll say, to your capsule experience. Right? So switch the voice. If you were writing a capsule, for instance, it was a storytelling thing, and there was a couple characters in the story, we'll make them have different voices by just using that SSML and change the voices in there. And indeed, actually, you can do more in SSML and even change how you speak some of the voices themselves. And you can do some interesting things. You can even use one language and then use the other languages. So you could have Bixby use a Spanish language and then have Korean text. So it would speak Korean with a kind of bit of a Spanish accent. Doesn't always work so well, but sometimes it's actually an interesting combination. So I'm a really big fan of people using things like switching languages to add character, adding sound effects via SSML and doing that. I don't see that enough in capsules. I think any capsule can probably benefit from some audio in SSML, even if it's just when you start, brand your capsule with a unique sound effect, and just do it. It's much more interesting if you actually add some sound effects there. Yeah. So that's maybe tip number 10 or 11 that I didn't mention.
Yeah, you can, if you want, there's a few live capsules that use a lot of different voices. One of them is Copycat. You can preview pretty much all the voices that Bixby has with it. So if you want to try that out. Okay, next question from Opinion 8. Do the earbuds work with iPhone Siri? Yes, they do. Right, Roger?
Yeah, they just be like, they work with iPhone. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure if you double tap if they.
Oh, with Siri.
I'm not sure about that actually.
They work with the iPhone, yes. I don't know about Siri. Yeah, that's a good.
I'd have to try that out, but they definitely work with the iPhone pretty well. I own both phones. I switch earbuds, so I don't know, but I have tried them and paired them with iPhone. They work great. I'm not sure I think it's the double tap evokes Siri or not. Wow. It definitely works. It definitely evokes Bixby on a Samsung phone.
I guess one way to find out is if you win the earbuds. So next question from Junior again. When will they enter new categories? And I can say that, the NL team regularly adds categories every once in a while. So you just have to kind of stay tuned, and the documentation gets updated when new categories are added. So if you're talking about like marketplace categories, I'm not aware of necessarily any additional marketplace categories. So the categories that I was talking about was natural language categories, which allow you to use various capsules without name dispatch. So, in terms of marketplace categories, like how capsules are filtered by, the different genres, I'm not aware of any categories that they're adding there. So, let's see. Next question. Unless Roger, did you want to add anything to that?
No, that's great.
Okay. Next question, also from Junior. How does the creation of a new marketplace for a country work? And Roger, why don't you take this away?
Yeah, so we would do basically it's it's as simple as turning on the marketplace. So the marketplace is available in the United States and Korea right now. To turn on a new marketplace would mean users in that country could actually go to the, if you double click the Bixby button or double click the power button on new phones, right? You go to the Bixby home screen and you can click and see you can go enable a capsule. In those countries without the Bixby marketplace enabled, there is no marketplace tab, although they still can change the settings there. But yeah, I mean, basically so let's see, as a user, it would just show up as a marketplace there. As a developer, you would actually target in your capsule.bxb that actual new country, and then that would show up in that country's marketplace. So when we add new countries, we'll let you know, and then you can go enable it. Obviously, you need to think about languages and localization and internationalization, but that's kind of a given when you add a new country. Although, right, if we enable your US English one, probably works okay in the UK or in Indian English, although I'd argue it's even better if you modify it and use kind of local terminology there. But yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Great. So we have, okay. So another question from Opinion 8. When will Jovo be updated to support, for example, continuations and relaxations? So Roger, I think you know a little bit more about Jovo than I do.
I can't answer for Jan and the Jovo team. I will say, reach out to him. It's Jan, and I am having a brain fart on the guy who did a lot of the Bixby integration for Jovo, but I will tell you in a second, but you reach out to them and ask them or make a suggestion. One thing I love about the Jovo team is they are super responsive. So if you're using Jovo for Bixby and there's not something there, go ask those guys, and they will get back to you. And I'm looking this up right now.
I guess he's
Ruben. Edutair. So yeah. So bug Jan and Ruben and say you need something new on Jovo, and my guess is they'll enable it pretty soon, or we can help them. We've helped them with some of the integration.
Okay. And I just want to acknowledge a few of the comments saying thank you. We're here to help. We're always happy to do these webinars and to interact with you guys. And also, Junior says, I'm loving Bixby, using JavaScript, Bixby language, and the view looks like HTML and CSS. And yes, it's a very good thing to point out, is that the view files do kind of work like HTML, how it ends up looking like kind of a carrot, just all the code's getting tabbed inward like that. So yeah, I'm glad to hear that you're enjoying your experience with Bixby. And yeah, so it was Ruben, right? Ruben from Jovo.
Ruben Edutair, I believe it is, to reach out to and things. He really did most of the Bixby development. We did help him internally. So yeah, we can reach out to him, but it's sometimes even more powerful if you're a user and you reach out to them, because you got a real world use case. I actually wasn't aware they weren't supporting continuations and relaxations, so they should.
Great. Great.
So we are running out of questions. You guys have any more questions on there? Well, I have a question for you, Jonathan.
Oh, for me. Okay.
I was mentioning some things that I thought a lot of capsules are missing, like SSML and using the different languages. What's something when you've seen a lot of capsules, a lot of users, you've seen a lot of capsules. What's one thing that a lot of people could utilize in Bixby that they're not utilizing right now to make their capsules better?
Well, I guess I'd like to go back to one of the tips that I mentioned, which was hands-free mode. So lately I've been recording a lot of like videos on demoing Bixby and stuff, and when I do that, it's almost exclusively hands-free because I try not to finagle with my phone too much because otherwise it messes up the recording. So, I've noticed that a lot of capsules don't have any type of hands-free support, which, could really help their capsule out, particularly for users that invoke, the wake word of hi Bixby. And yeah, that's one thing that I do recommend a lot of capsules.
And also, if you're using Bixby Buds, you're probably hands-free, right? So one of the things that's interesting about the phone is that, it's got a UI, and often the user will be looking at the UI, but my phone could be across the room or on my desk and I'm not looking at it. Or if I have those earbuds in and I'm using it, I probably am not looking at it. So make sure your capsule works in hands-free mode and works well. So I agree. One of the things you see, because Bixby has such a rich UI, is you see these kind of hybrid voice kind of UI apps, which work great when you're using the screen, but all of a sudden you try it without being able to see the screen and it doesn't work. So make sure, when you're testing in the simulator, you turn on hands-free mode and test it. You can either do different experiences or in simple things, just make sure they work hands-free, right? I mean, make sure there's a voice-first experience there. So, all right. I think we're getting ready to give some things away. So let's see what I'm going to give away today. I think I'm going to give away 5 things and stuff.
5 things. Okay,
5 things. We're going to start with the simple and we're going to get more fun. So I'm going to give away these little, let's see, gets on screen. There's a little bit of delay here.
What is that?
That is a phone holder. So it's a Bixby phone holder. So I'm going to give these away.
Interesting.
All right. More fun.
Never seen that thing. Okay.
Is I'm going to give away this Bixby water bottle. Got some things here.
It is a year out of date, right? Since it says SDC 19.
Oh, that's okay.
That's okay. It's still pretty cool.
That year. And drum roll. We are giving away to one lucky person.
Woohoo!
Are going to give away some Galaxy Buds right here. So these are, pretty fun. Work great with Bixby. Work great really on any phone that's Bluetooth enabled, but work especially well with Bixby in a Samsung phone. All right. So what I'm going to do is I see, and let me jump over and look at this spreadsheet from Eventbrite, that we actually had 74 different registrations. And I think let's go straight to the fun thing. I'm going to give away the buds right now.
Wow.
All right.
Okay. It's usually the opposite, Roger.
I know, but we want to get exciting first. So I'm going to ask Bixby to give me a random number between 1 and 74. Give me a number between 1 and 74.
Processing some equations. Okay, your number is
5.
Number 5. All right. Stella Tate. You have won these. I will tell you, you have to have watched this. So I'm going to send you an email and ask you a couple questions about this presentation. If you can answer those, boom, Galaxy Buds for you.
Yeah, so just FYI everyone, for future webinars, be sure to register at Eventbrite to be considered in the raffle. And we also send one, pretty simple question. If you watched Office Hours, you'd be able to answer. So just for future raffles, that's how you win stuff.
All right. Let me just mark this on my thing. All right. Now I'm going to give away a selection of water bottles and these little Bixby phone holders. So I'm going to do 4 more of those. All right. Give me a number between 1 and 74.
Processing some equations. Okay, your number is 36.
36.
Number 36 is, oh boy, I'm going to mispronounce this name. Yang Nguyen Hong. Yang Ying Hong. Sorry.
Congratulations. Yes.
Sorry, congratulations. I may have mispronounced.
What did Yang win?
We'll send you an email for that. All right, let's do one. I got 3 more.
Wait, Roger, what did Yang win?
Oh, he won a mystery prize. I don't know if he's
A
gonna win
mystery prize. Oh, okay.
the water bottle or the phone holder.
I see.
There's got to be some mystery here.
I see.
All right, let's try it again. Oops, I left my phone locked. Oops. Hang on. Give me a number between 1 and 74.
Processing some equations. Okay, your number is 15.
15. 15 is Elaine and Zaldo.
Hey, Elaine has been in the chat this whole time. Yes. She's asked
Elaine, you.
Great. Congratulations, Elaine.
Awesome. All right, let me just mark this on my little spreadsheet here.
Mm-hmm.
All right, got 2 more. Give me a number between 1 and 74.
Processing some equations. Okay, your number is 28.
28.
8. Number 28 is Steve Chan. Congratulations, Steve. All right.
Congrats, Steve.
All right. One more
Last
giveaway.
Let's
do this. Is it going to be you? I don't know. Let's ask Bixby. Give me a number between 1 and 74.
Running some quick calculations. Drum roll, please. Your number is 38.
38. Who is number 38? It is none other than Frank Engelman.
Oh, Frank. Yes.
Frank.
Congratulations.
Awesome. All right. Hey, guys. Thank you so much for joining us in Office Hours. Sorry, COVID haircut here. Thank you so much for joining us in Office Hours. Like I said, we'll go and put this presentation up on our Twitter at Bixby Developers. So if you're not following us, please do that. And then follow us on YouTube and other channels. Feel free to reach out that way or directly to Jonathan and me on Twitter. And oh, I see a cat.
There is a cat.
All right. Or if you want to talk to Jonathan's cat, you got to reach out to Jonathan first and he will translate for you. But hey, thanks so much, guys. Will be up on our YouTube channel. Thank you so much for joining today. Congratulations to the prize winners. We will be doing this again next month. It'll be the second Friday of the month. Don't have a calendar in front of me, so I don't remember, but sometime in early November, we'll be doing some other cool giveaways. Mm-hmm. And we're kind of searching for a topic. So if you have a topic that you'd like to give us a presentation about around Bixby, then reach out to us and give us some ideas and thoughts. So thanks so much.
Yep. Thanks. Yeah, thanks for joining us, everyone. It's been a pleasure, like always. And with that, that's the end of our stream. See you guys next time.
Perfect. Thanks, guys.